A woman won't respect a man who doesn't respect himself. Let that sit for a second. In a world where many men chase validation, sacrifice their standards, and shrink themselves to be liked, few realize this simple truth. Respect is never given to the man who abandons himself. You can be handsome. You can be rich. You can have charm, status, attention. But if you have no boundaries, you will lose her respect. Because a man without boundaries is a man without identity. And a man without identity can't lead, can't protect, can't be trusted. Not by her, not by anyone. Here's the reality most won't tell you. A woman may flirt with the man who gives her everything. She may use the man who tries too hard. She may even date the man who bends for her constantly. But she only respects the man who holds the line. She respects the man who respects his own time, his peace, his standards, his purpose, his values. And she respects the man who doesn't need her approval because he's already approved of himself. So let me ask you this. What boundaries separate the men women admire from the ones they forget? Because it's not about being controlling. It's not about playing games or acting cold. It's about holding your frame. It's about knowing who you are and never letting someone else redefine it. It's about living by code, not by emotion. Women are not drawn to chaos. They are drawn to clarity, to certainty, to direction. And every time you fail to set a boundary, every time you let her cross a line you know she shouldn't, you don't just lose a battle, you lose presence. And here's the thing about presence. You can't fake it. You either radiate it or you don't. And boundaries are what keep that fire lit. Think of a king. Does a king chase validation? Does a king beg for affection? Does he explain himself to everyone who questions his worth? No, because the throne speaks for itself. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't react to every provocation. He simply rules with principle, not impulse. And the kingdom respects him because of one thing: his boundaries. You want to be respected by a woman? Be the king of your life. Don't lower your crown to make her feel taller. Don't abandon your purpose to make her feel more important. Invite her into your world, but don't hand her the keys. Because the moment you give up leadership of yourself, you lose everything that made her attracted to you in the first place. This is where most men fail. They think love means losing themselves. They think being nice means saying yes to everything. They think being masculine means never saying no, just pleasing, pleasing, pleasing. And then they wonder why she pulls away, why she starts losing interest, why she starts testing more. It's not because she's cruel. It's because on some primal level, she senses it. This man doesn't lead. This man can't protect. This man won't stand up for himself. So how can he stand up for me? And once she sees that weakness, respect fades, attraction dies, and you're left confused, wondering what went wrong. But it was simple. You didn't hold the line. You let emotion override principle. You let fear override boundaries. You chose comfort over clarity. And women don't fall in love with comfort. They fall in love with strength, with direction, with power, not forceful power, but internal power. So what kind of man gets respected? The man who can say no. The man who walks away when his peace is threatened. The man who values time, energy, and purpose, and doesn't compromise for anyone. You see, the man with boundaries isn't bitter. He's not defensive. He's not cold. He's clear. Clear about what he tolerates. Clear about what he prioritizes. Clear about what kind of woman fits into his life and what kind of behavior doesn't. He's not reactive. He's responsive. He doesn't explode. He explains. Once. And if she doesn't respect it, he doesn't fight. He leaves. Because a man who knows his worth doesn't need to argue for it. Let's get brutally honest for a second. Have you ever texted back when you didn't want to, just to keep her interested? Have you ever said yes to something you knew wasn't right, just to avoid conflict? Have you ever felt disrespected but said nothing, hoping things would go back to normal? That's what weakens your edge. That's what kills your masculine energy. Not the world, not women, not rejection, but you, not standing up for yourself. So this video, this isn't just advice. It's a challenge to rise above the noise, a challenge to reclaim your power, a challenge to stop seeking love at the cost of self-respect. Because boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They're doors that only open for the right people. You don't set boundaries to control others. You set boundaries to protect your integrity. You set boundaries because you know the most attractive man in the room is the one who's not afraid to lose anyone, if it means keeping himself. And that's where the journey begins. In the next parts of this video, we'll break down exactly what these boundaries are, how emotional control makes her feel safe in your presence, how protecting your time and priorities creates respect, why never tolerating disrespect sets the tone for connection, and how placing your purpose before pleasure is the ultimate masculine move. But before we go there, let this land. The boundary is the message. It says, I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and I don't shrink for anyone. That's the man she respects. That's the man she follows. That's the man she loves with depth. Not because he tries harder, but because he holds the line. Boundaries are not about control. They are not about being cold. They are not about building walls to keep people out. They are about building walls to protect what's sacred within. When a man has boundaries, what he's really saying is, I know what I value. I know who I am, and I will not allow anything or anyone to disturb that. That's not ego. That's not insecurity. That's masculine energy in its purest form. Directional, grounded, self-respecting. Because masculinity is not just about power. It's about order. It's about living by code. And boundaries? They are the visible proof of that code. They are the external reflection of internal self-worth. When you say no to what disrespects you, you say yes to who you are. Let that hit. Because every time you say yes to something that violates your values, you abandon yourself. You weaken your frame. You dilute your essence. And it doesn't matter how attractive, charming, or funny you are. If you can't hold your line, you can't hold her respect. Boundaries are self-worth in action. A man can talk about confidence. He can read books, repeat affirmations, go to the gym, wear the right cologne. But none of it matters if, at the first sign of disrespect, he folds. That's not confidence. That's performance. And a woman can feel it. Instantly. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She doesn't need you to be a robot. But she needs to feel one thing above all. That your center cannot be bought. That no matter how beautiful she is, how emotional she gets, or how much pressure she applies, you will not betray yourself. That's what separates the man she tests from the man she trusts. Boundaries are not punishment, they're protection. Too many men think that setting a boundary is mean. They're afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of making her upset, afraid of conflict. But here's the paradox. If you fear setting boundaries, you're not loving her, you're managing her. And people don't respect managers. They respect leaders. A boundary is not a threat. It's not an ultimatum. It's not drama. It's a calm, clear standard. It says, I will not engage in disrespect. I do not accept emotional manipulation. I protect my time, my peace, and my priorities. If that boundary offends her, she was never meant for you. But if it awakens something in her, she will feel safe. Not because you control her, but because you control yourself. Women respect men who set the frame. A man without a frame is like a river without banks. He floods. He spills. He loses direction. Women are wired for emotional flow, for feeling, for change. Men are wired for direction, for clarity, for grounding. When a man enters a dynamic with no boundaries, the polarity collapses. She has to lead. She has to set the tone. She has to become the structure. And when she does, she may stay with you for comfort, but she will never admire you. Because love without respect is pity, not passion. She respects the man who says, this is what I allow. This is what I do not. And this is non-negotiable. That man doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't chase approval. He attracts, because he operates from strength, not scarcity. Respect doesn't come from chasing. It comes from holding the line. We've been fed lies. Be nice. Say yes. Keep her happy at all costs. But here's what's real. The man who chases is the man who forgets himself. The man who forgets himself becomes invisible to her. Because women don't fall for men who lose themselves in the relationship. They fall for men who bring their full self into the relationship and never abandon it. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to be harsh. You just need to hold the line. And the line isn't drawn in sand. It's drawn in self-respect. Examples of real boundaries that create respect. Let's get practical. These aren't rules. These are non-negotiables of self-worth. You don't tolerate raised voices or verbal abuse, no matter how emotional she gets. Calm doesn't mean weak. Calm means in control. You don't cancel your goals or routines to spend time with someone who isn't reciprocating effort. Your purpose comes first. You don't engage in passive-aggressive games, jealousy traps, or attention-seeking behavior. If she tests, you respond with clarity, or you walk. You don't argue just to keep the connection. Some things don't need to be defended. If someone can't handle your boundary, they don't belong in your circle. These are not ego moves. These are peace moves. Because a man with boundaries doesn't create chaos. He prevents it. Boundaries build trust, with her and with yourself. Here's something men don't hear enough. When you set boundaries with her, she feels safer with you. Not because you dominate her, but because you protect both of you from crossing lines that damage love. It creates trust, and more importantly, it builds trust within yourself. Because every time you hold the line, you reinforce this truth. I can count on myself to do what's right. I will not betray myself for pleasure, for validation, or for comfort. I choose respect, even if it costs me approval. That's real power. That's what keeps your mind clear, your energy strong, and your heart at peace. Final thought on the power of boundaries. Boundaries aren't built overnight. They're forged through trial, through loss, through failure, through moments when you didn't hold the line and paid the price. But once you build them, you become untouchable, not because you never feel, but because you don't let feelings dictate your identity. Not because you control others, but because you control yourself. And when a woman feels that, she may love you, she may challenge you, but one thing is guaranteed: she will respect you. One of the strongest boundaries a man can ever build is around his emotions. Not to suppress them, not to pretend he doesn't feel, not to become a robot walking through life with a fake mask of toughness, but to control them, fully, completely, unapologetically. This is boundary number 1, emotional control. Because when it comes to masculine energy, emotional stability is power. A man who can't regulate his emotions is a man who can't be trusted. Not by a woman, not by the world, not even by himself. Let's be honest. Most men were never taught how to lead themselves emotionally. They were taught to explode or shut down, to chase when they feel fear, or to numb when they feel hurt, to react instead of reflect. But a woman can sense it immediately. She doesn't have to see you scream. She doesn't need you to punch a wall. She can feel instability in your eyes, your tone, your silence. And the moment she senses you are emotionally weak, she starts to pull away, not out of cruelty, but because she doesn't feel safe. Here's a truth most won't say out loud. A woman will test your emotions. On purpose. She'll do it subtly. She'll push your buttons. She'll say something sharp just to see how you react. She'll challenge your masculinity in moments you don't expect. Why? Because she wants to know, can you hold the frame, even when it shakes? Can you stay grounded, even when she loses herself? Can you lead, when things are messy, emotional, and unpredictable? She's not looking for perfection. She's not trying to destroy you. She's trying to feel your depth, your control, your presence. Because if you can't handle her emotions, how will you handle life? And if you lose control every time she gets emotional, then who's leading who? Don't let her moods dictate your mood. This is one of the most powerful boundaries a man can set, because most men become emotional mirrors. She's upset, now he's upset. She's distant, now he panics. She's cold, now he becomes desperate for warmth. But here's the shift. You are not her emotional reflection. You are her emotional anchor. She brings the storm. You bring the ground. That's polarity. That's masculine-feminine energy in its most primal, powerful form. You don't need to fix her feelings. You don't need to match her chaos. You don't need to argue, explain, or convince her to feel better. You need to stand still when everything else spins. You need to breathe, pause, lead with calm. And in doing so, you don't just win her respect. You invite her into emotional safety. Let's be clear. This is not about being passive. It's not about letting her walk all over you. It's not about ignoring disrespect or pretending to be zen while she throws shade. It's about discernment, knowing the difference between a test and a red flag, between a moment of emotion and a pattern of disrespect, between a cry for connection and a manipulation of control. When you're emotionally grounded, you don't react to every little wave. You know which waves to ride and which ones to let pass. You choose response over reaction, clarity over chaos, presence over panic. That's leadership. And women don't fall in love with men who panic. They fall in love with men who hold space. You may ask, how do I build emotional control? It starts with self-awareness. You have to know your triggers, the little things that light the fire inside, the insecurities she unknowingly touches, the fears you've never confronted. Because if you don't master your triggers, she will. And not on purpose, but through instinct. So take time every day to reflect. Journal. Ask yourself, what made me react today? What emotion did I suppress or ignore? Where did I lose the frame and why? This is the real work. The invisible reps that build emotional muscle. Next, emotional discipline. You don't feed every feeling. You feel it. You name it. But you don't act on it immediately. You let it pass through you like a wave. Stoics practiced this deeply. They knew emotions were natural, but reaction was a choice. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. Seneca. So when you feel jealousy rise, breathe. Step back. Ask yourself, is this truth or story? When you feel anger boil, breathe. Step back. Ask, what am I protecting? What do I fear losing? That moment of space, that pause between feeling and action, that's where a man becomes untouchable. Another tool, Stoic detachment. Understand this. Her emotion is hers. Her mood is hers. Her storm is hers. You can empathize. You can listen. But you don't take it on as your own. You don't become reactive because she's reactive. You don't become emotional because she's emotional. You are her mirror of stability, not her amplifier of drama. And if she sees that you can stay composed in the chaos, she'll trust you with more of herself. Because now she knows, this man can handle me. And once a woman believes that, her respect for you becomes unwavering. Let's flip it. What happens when you don't have emotional control? You chase when she pulls back. You over-explain when she's cold. You argue when silence would have been power. You react to every word, every look, every shift in tone. And slowly, she loses attraction. Not because you're too emotional, but because you lack leadership. Because leadership is not just in actions. It's in emotions. It's in regulation. It's in the stillness that allows others to be messy without pulling you into it. And most importantly, it's the ability to stay true to yourself, even when it would feel easier to collapse. So here's your boundary. I don't allow anyone, not even the woman I love, to shake my emotional frame. It doesn't mean you shut her out. It means you show up stronger. It means you create space without absorbing chaos. It means you listen without losing yourself. It means you feel, but you don't flinch. That's masculine energy at its highest frequency. Not dominance, not control, centeredness. And once you hold that, you'll realize it's not just women who respond. It's life. Because a man with emotional control is ready for anything. Love, loss, failure, conflict, success. He can face it all because his power is no longer held hostage by his feelings. So build this boundary. Build it every day. Every test is a chance to reinforce it. Every storm is a chance to anchor deeper. Because once you control your inner world, the outer world can't touch you. And women, they'll feel it, and they'll follow it. Not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it. By doing the hardest thing any man can do, mastering himself. There is nothing more magnetic and nothing more misunderstood than a man who values his time. Boundary number 2 is simple, but it separates the boys from the men. You don't drop everything the moment she calls. Not because you're playing games, not because you don't care, but because you have something bigger than her, your mission. A man without a mission is just orbiting. He lives in response to life, to texts, to moods, to distractions. But a man with direction, he moves with weight. His time is not something you borrow casually. It is scheduled, disciplined, intentional. And when a woman senses that, she doesn't feel rejected. She feels drawn in. Because women don't fall in love with men who are always available. They fall in love with men who are unshakably committed to something larger, something that even she cannot interrupt. Masculine energy requires structure. Understand this. Masculinity thrives in order, in routine, in consistency. The gym, the work, the journaling, the focus blocks, the business, the mission. This is not about becoming robotic. It's about building inner gravity. So when you tell her, calmly, I'll call you after training. I'm focused right now. I'll text you later. Let's talk tonight. I have work to handle. She hears, I respect my time. And if I invite you into it, it's intentional. That's attractive. Because she knows you're not addicted to her. You're not bored with your life. You're not looking for an escape. You are living with a rhythm that doesn't break just because she showed up. Availability kills mystery. Let's be honest. Most guys think being overavailable is a love language. They text too much. They always answer instantly. They drop their goals, their routines, their energy just to respond. Why? Because deep down, they believe access equals intimacy. But the truth is the opposite. Too much access kills mystery. Too much availability kills desire. Because what is easily available is rarely respected. What is constantly there is eventually taken for granted. And women don't respect men who are always just one text away. They respect the man who's present when he chooses to be, but never at the cost of his priorities. Time is the ultimate self-respect. Every time you interrupt your mission to chase comfort, you teach yourself one thing. My time doesn't matter. My focus can be broken. My energy is cheap. But when you protect your time like it's sacred, your self-respect skyrockets. You wake up and know what matters. You move through your day with clarity. You feel momentum. You feel power. And guess what? That's the version of you she's drawn to. Not the distracted man trying to fill his day with attention. Not the people pleaser who's secretly hoping for her validation. But the man who wakes up with fire, executes with focus, and brings his full presence when it's time. That man is rare, and rare men are respected. She doesn't want you to be obsessed with her. Let this sink in. She doesn't want to be the center of your universe. She wants to orbit a man who already has one. That means you don't cancel workouts for casual hangouts. You don't pause your business to send heart emojis all day. You don't sit by the phone waiting for her reply. You live. You build. You execute. You keep your mind sharp. You keep your soul aligned. You stay on the path, and she respects you more for it. Because when she feels you're willing to drop everything just for her, she doesn't feel more loved. She feels less safe. She senses you have no backbone, and that's not sexy. What's sexy? A man who tells her not now, with love and with leadership. That no makes your next yes 10x more powerful. Because it comes from a man who chooses, not chases. Don't confuse ignoring with prioritizing. Let's be clear. This boundary is not about ignoring her. It's not about playing cold to manipulate her emotions. It's not about being toxic or distant on purpose. That's ego. That's insecurity. That's weakness in disguise. What we're talking about is discernment. I'm not ignoring you. I'm not avoiding you. I'm simply not abandoning what I've built just to make you feel more secure. You're not a boy in need of validation. You're a man walking a path. And when she sees that your life has a direction, a rhythm, a flow, she knows that if she's in your life, it's because she's earned her place there. Not because you were desperate, but because you saw value and you invited her in. Big difference. Daily life examples that show this boundary. Let's ground it in the real world. These are moments where men either hold the boundary or collapse. You're in a deep work session and she calls 3 times. You answer calmly when you're done, not mid-flow. She wants to hang out spontaneously, but it's leg day and gym is non-negotiable. You go train and see her after. You're reading, journaling, or reflecting, and she sends 10 messages. You stay in your practice, then respond with intention. These moments seem small, but they build the message. This man doesn't abandon himself. And the deeper that message sinks in, the more she respects you, the more she admires you, the more she invests in you. Because now she knows, you're not hers, you're yours. And only men who belong to themselves can truly be loved. Final word on time and priorities. You want to be attractive? Protect your time. You want to be respected? Respect your own schedule. You want to be remembered? Be the man who didn't need her to feel complete. Because that man, he stands out. Not because he's loud, but because he's centered. He doesn't have time for drama. He's too busy building. He doesn't get lost in emotion. He's too rooted in purpose. He doesn't beg for love. He becomes love through his structure. And structure is sexy. So every morning, ask yourself, what matters today? What deserves my time? What am I building? And then let nothing, not even beauty, knock you off course. Because that discipline, that's the boundary that makes her respect you more. Let's get this straight. Respect is not something you beg for. It's something you enforce. And when it comes to women, love without respect is a trap. She may desire you. She may even chase you. But if she doesn't respect you, she won't stay loyal. She won't feel safe. She won't give you her full softness. That's why boundary number 3 is non-negotiable. No tolerance for disrespect. Not because you're fragile, not because you're angry, but because you respect yourself too much to be anyone's emotional doormat. You teach people how to treat you. Here's the truth. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you train her to keep doing it. The tone she uses when she's upset, the way she talks about you in front of others, the names she calls you when she's emotional, the silent treatments, the passive aggression, the subtle digs that chip at your confidence. You think it's not that deep. You let it slide. You tell yourself she's just emotional. But what you don't realize is this. Every time you excuse it, she loses a little more respect for you. Not because she's evil, but because you showed her, I can treat this man however I want, and he won't do a thing. That's not love. That's emotional imbalance. A real man doesn't tolerate disrespect. He confronts it. Now listen carefully. This doesn't mean yelling. It doesn't mean cursing. It doesn't mean playing the alpha male and puffing your chest. It means calm power. It means calling it out the first time. With clarity, presence, authority. Hey, the way you spoke to me just now, not okay. I get that you're upset, but calling me names? That crosses a line. I'm not your enemy. But if you treat me like one, I'll walk away. You say it once. You say it with eye contact. You say it from a grounded place, not from emotional reaction. Because a woman doesn't lose respect when you confront her. She loses respect when you let things slide that should have been checked. One warning. After that, you walk. This part is key. You give her one clear, direct opportunity to shift. Not a lecture. Not 10 passive-aggressive messages. Not sulking and withdrawing your energy, hoping she notices. One grounded, masculine warning. And after that, you don't repeat yourself. You don't argue. You don't plead for better treatment. You walk. Because once you've spoken like a king, the next move is hers. If she changes, good. If she doesn't deserve a second chance. Why? Because you're not there to raise her. You're not her emotional punching bag. And you're not willing to lose yourself to keep her. But I love her. That's not an excuse. Love does not mean tolerance for abuse. Love is not a license for chaos. Love without respect destroys you from the inside out. So many men stay in disrespectful dynamics because of attachment, because of history, because she used to be sweet. But remember, what you allow continues. And what continues becomes your identity. She insults you once, and you let it slide. It happens again. Then your confidence drops. You feel anxious. You lose your center. You start over-explaining, over-pleasing, over-apologizing for things you didn't even do. You've now shifted from masculine energy to submission. And once you're in that position, the attraction dies. She may not even know why she's pulling away. But deep down, it's because she no longer sees you as a man she can respect. Disrespect comes in many forms. It's not always loud. It's not always name-calling. It's often subtle, making fun of your goals, dismissing your emotions, comparing you to other men, controlling your time, undermining your leadership, testing your boundaries repeatedly, publicly mocking you, even jokingly. If you don't call it out, you're training her that it's acceptable. You become the guy who lets it slide. But what slides today will crash tomorrow. So start catching the small things. That joke wasn't funny. Don't do that again. I don't accept being spoken to like that. I value respect more than attention. I hope you understand that. Say it with calm. Say it once. And say it like a man who means it. Why she'll respect you more when you set this boundary. It might sound counterintuitive. You'd think confronting her would scare her away. But here's what actually happens when you hold the line. She feels safer. She feels your masculine leadership. She knows you're not afraid to lose her. She understands you stand for something. That's attractive. You're not reactive. You're not emotional. You're firm. And firmness is sexy. Why? Because it says, I'm not desperate. I'm not for sale. I'm not afraid to walk away from anything that insults my soul. That's a man women admire and submit to naturally. Not because you dominate them, but because you lead with standards. The Stoic perspective, dignity over drama. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Epictetus. Stoicism teaches us that emotions don't control us unless we give them permission. So when you're disrespected, the worst thing you can do is lose control. Yelling, screaming, overreacting. That's weakness, not strength. A Stoic man sees the disrespect. He analyzes it. He calls it out. And then he chooses. Is this someone I want in my life or not? There is no begging. There is no drama. There is only clarity. And clarity is what gives your presence weight. Your words weight. Your decisions weight. That's Stoic masculinity. How to build this boundary internally. Know your limits. What kind of behavior are you no longer willing to accept from anyone? Write it down. Burn it into your mind. Practice small confrontations. When something feels off, speak up. Don't wait. Don't let it build. Every time you check bad behavior, you grow stronger. Detach from outcome. If your fear of losing her is bigger than your love for yourself, you'll never set boundaries. So practice detachment. Respect yourself enough to walk. Reaffirm your standards daily. Repeat this mantra. My time is sacred. My energy is gold. My presence is earned, never begged for. You are not for everyone. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to live aligned with who you are and let the right people rise to your level. Final reflection. The man who tolerates disrespect loses her respect. Read that again. Every time you stay silent, every time you excuse bad behavior, every time you act like it's not that serious, you lose ground. You lose presence. You lose yourself. But when you say, I don't tolerate disrespect, not because I'm trying to be tough, but because I've worked too damn hard to build the man I am, then you become untouchable. And that's the man she'll never want to lose. There's a law in nature. The river does not change its course for the fish. It flows. It cuts through stone. It shapes valleys. And every fish that swims within it, flows with it, or gets left behind. That's you. That's your purpose. Boundary number 4 is this. Your purpose comes first. Not her emotions. Not her moods. Not her expectations. Not her confusion. Purpose is the center. Purpose is the root. Purpose is the code. Because without it, you're just floating. And no woman respects a man who floats. A woman doesn't want to be the center of your universe. She may say she does. She may act like she wants your full attention. She may test your focus, demand your time, question your priorities. But deep down, she doesn't want to be your reason for living. She wants to witness you live with a reason. And that reason, that mission, must come before her. Because here's the paradox. The more you abandon your purpose for her, the more she pulls away. The more you neglect your discipline to make her happy, the more unattractive you become. She doesn't fall for the man who chases her approval. She falls for the man who chases his vision, with such fire that she wants to be a part of it. You were not born to orbit her. Most men flip the polarity. They fall in love, and suddenly, they skip the gym to text back faster. They stop reading, building, creating, to spend more time together. They shrink their vision to support the relationship. But the truth is brutal. If she becomes your mission, you've already lost her. Because she didn't fall in love with your softness. She fell in love with your direction, your decisiveness, your drive. The moment that disappears, she no longer feels safe. Why? Because she senses you need her more than you need your own path. And no woman respects a man who sacrifices his fire to keep her warm. Your purpose isn't selfish, it's sacred. Let's redefine something. Putting your mission first isn't selfish. It's stoic. It's noble. It's aligned with nature. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up and ask for approval. He woke up to build an empire of virtue. Epictetus didn't bend to opinions. He focused on what depended on him. And you? You're the same. You weren't made to please. You were made to forge, to fight, to lead. Because every time you act from purpose, you build self-respect, internal peace, a magnetic presence. And when you radiate that presence, she trusts you. She softens. She follows. Not because you told her to, but because your gravity demands it. The Stoic perspective. Be indifferent to what does not depend on you. Epictetus said it best. Be indifferent to what does not depend on you. Her moods? Not in your control. Her reactions? Not in your control. Her level of admiration? Not in your control. But your mission? Your clarity? Your action? Fully in your control. So while most men live in emotional reaction, you build in silence. While most men shrink to avoid conflict, you rise to meet the storm. While most men sacrifice their calling to keep her close, you walk your path, even if it means walking alone. That's power. That's stoic masculinity. That's leadership. And ironically, that's what pulls her in deeper. You are the frame. She is the canvas. Another way to see it. You're the frame. She's the art. The frame gives shape. It holds the structure. It defines the limits. Without the frame, the art falls apart. But if the frame collapses just to protect the painting, nothing is left. You are the structure of the relationship. Your values, your purpose, your direction. That's the masculine spine she leans on. If you bend every time she cries, if you lose clarity every time she tests you, If you abandon your routine just to keep peace, you are not a man in love. You are a man in submission. And submission never leads to love. It leads to slow death of trust, polarity, and attraction. Signs you've abandoned your purpose. Be honest. If these apply to you, it's time to reclaim the boundary. You stop doing what you love to make more time for her. You feel guilty working on yourself when she's upset. You put off business, goals, gym, or study because she needs you. You feel empty when she's not around. You constantly seek her validation or reassurance. This is not love. This is emotional codependence. And codependence is feminine energy. It's not what she respects. It's what she eventually runs from. How to reclaim this boundary. 1. Define your mission daily. You don't need a 5-year plan, but you do need clarity on what today demands. What are you building? What are you becoming? What must get done, no matter what? Purpose isn't found. It's forged. Start small. Stay consistent. And protect it like a temple. 2. Set non-negotiables. Work, training, journaling, solitude, reading, building. These are sacred. You don't reschedule them for dinner. You lead. 3. Respond calmly, but never shift your core. She may complain. She may say you're not present. She may test you emotionally. Don't argue. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just say, I care about you, but this matters, and I won't abandon it. Let her feel your groundedness. Let her see that your world doesn't rotate based on emotion. She may resist at first, but she'll respect you infinitely more. The man of purpose is rare and irresistible. A man who knows where he's going, who doesn't fold under pressure, who chooses mission over comfort. That man is dangerous, not because he's violent, but because he cannot be moved. He may love you deeply, but he will never worship you. He may admire your beauty, but he'll never lose himself chasing it. He may give you everything, except his purpose. And when a woman sees that, she surrenders, not to control, but to strength, not to dominance, but to direction. She knows, this man doesn't need me, which means I can finally be a woman, not his lifeline. Final reflection. You are either a man of purpose or a man of permission. One leads his life. The other asks for approval to live. One builds his vision. The other abandons it to avoid conflict. One attracts respect. The other settles for validation. So ask yourself, am I centered in mission or drifting in emotion? Do I lead my days or react to hers? Have I built a life she can admire, or am I clinging to hers out of fear? Then remember, purpose is not an option. It's the foundation of your masculinity. It's what makes you magnetic. It's what makes you respected. It's what makes you unforgettable. Hold it, protect it, live it, and let every woman you meet rise to meet you there, or fall behind. Let's be clear, boundaries are not barriers. They are not shields. They are not emotional walls to keep love out. Boundaries are clarity. They are lines that define who you are, what you allow, and what you stand for. They are the blueprint of a man with self-worth. And in relationships, especially with women, they are everything. Without boundaries, you become forgettable. With boundaries, you become respected. The difference between a nice guy and a respected man. There are 2 types of men in her world. The first says yes to everything, avoids conflict, tries to please her, thinks sacrifice equals love, gets frustrated when he's not appreciated. The second says no without guilt, prioritizes self-respect, leads with calm certainty, communicates clearly, knows what he stands for. The first is a nice guy. The second is a man of boundaries. One gets attention, sometimes. The other earns respect, always. And here's the truth most men don't want to hear. She doesn't fall in love with how much you give her. She falls in love with how much you won't give up, especially your standards. Boundaries are the evidence of self-respect. You can say you love yourself. You can post quotes. You can read books, meditate, journal. But if you let people talk to you however they want, treat you like an option, interrupt your purpose, cross your emotional limits, then your actions contradict your words. Self-respect is not about talk. It's about standards. It's about being able to say, no, I don't allow that. This is important to me. I won't stay in a space where I'm not valued. I'm not afraid to walk away. Not from anger, not from ego, but from alignment. You've worked too hard on yourself to betray it now. Why boundaries create attraction? Let's make something clear. Women are not attracted to weakness, not emotional weakness, not indecision, not a man who constantly adjusts his behavior to keep the peace. They are attracted to men who have direction, have backbone, have limits. Not because limits are harsh, but because limits are masculine. She doesn't want you to let her walk all over you. She wants to know, if I test him, will he hold his ground? If I'm emotional, will he stay centered? If I act out, will he call it out or fold? And when you answer those moments with presence, not panic, her respect for you grows. Because she sees, this man isn't afraid to lose me. He's more loyal to his values than to my moods. I can trust him because he trusts himself. You don't lose women by setting boundaries. Some men are afraid to set boundaries because they think, she'll leave. She'll think I'm controlling. I don't want to cause drama. But the reality is, you don't lose women by setting boundaries. You lose women by not having any. If a woman walks away because you said, that's not okay with me. I don't tolerate disrespect. My time is valuable. I need space to handle this with clarity. Then she wasn't meant for a man like you. You didn't lose her. You lost the version of her that expected you to be small. And trust me, every time you enforce a boundary, you refine your circle. You raise your standard. You attract better. You build power. Boundaries create peace, not conflict. Men often confuse boundaries with confrontation. They think, if I set a boundary, we'll fight. She'll feel rejected. It'll ruin the mood. But here's what actually happens when you clearly express your limits. The right woman relaxes. She trusts you more. She feels secure. The dynamic becomes clear. The respect deepens. Boundaries remove confusion. They filter out chaos. They create order in the relationship. Because a woman cannot follow a man who bends every time she pushes. She doesn't want to lead. She wants to surrender to strength. And strength is not loud. It's not aggressive. It's quiet, calm, firm. It sounds like, I love you, but I won't compromise who I am. You're important to me, and so is my mission. This relationship matters, but not more than my dignity. Build the habit of holding the line. It's not about being perfect. It's about being committed to your growth. So how do you develop this boundary muscle? 1. Know your non-negotiables. What are your top 5 standards for yourself and how others treat you? If you don't know them, how can you defend them? 2. Practice saying no without guilt. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to be available 24/7. 3. Check disrespect immediately. Not with emotion, with presence. If something feels off, speak. Don't wait. Don't hope it'll pass. Don't normalize bad behavior. 4. Be willing to walk away. Your power ends where your fear of loss begins. If you're terrified of being alone, you'll tolerate things that break your spirit. But when you know, I am whole, with or without her, then you become a man who commands both respect and devotion. Your energy is a kingdom. Guard it. Imagine your energy like a kingdom. You have walls. You have gates. You decide who enters. You decide who stays. No one walks in and out at will. No one gets to storm your castle without facing the king. Because you've built this. Your focus, your body, your habits, your vision, your frame. So anyone, woman, friend, stranger, who steps inside, must honor the rules, must respect the presence, must match the energy. If they don't, they're gone. That's the power of a man who lives by principle, not emotion. Final words. This is your line. Let's land this plane. If you've ever felt disrespected in a relationship, taken for granted, like you're giving more than you're getting, like you've lost yourself trying to keep someone, then hear this. It's not too late to draw the line, to reclaim your voice, to take your power back. Because every boundary you set is a declaration. I'm no longer available for disrespect. I'm no longer bending to gain approval. I'm no longer chasing what costs me my peace. I'm here to lead, not to follow emotions. And when you embody that, you won't need to raise your voice. You won't need to explain yourself. You'll speak. You'll hold the line. And she'll feel it. Because that's what women respect. Not gifts. Not words. Not attention. Standards. Call to action. Set the boundary. Hold the line. Because the moment you do, she won't just like you more. She won't just desire you more. She'll respect you more. And in the end, respect is the foundation of everything worth building.